There is no doubt that growing high-quality, nutritious food isn't a simple task. And with so many people working at different stages of the process, we know that greenhouse growing can quickly become a complicated concept. Let the Grow To people at NatureFresh Farms break it down for you. In a greenhouse, you need to create an environment where there is a consistent source of light, heat, carbon dioxide, also known as CO2, and nutrient water. The current light source in our greenhouses is natural light. However, with lower sunlight levels during the winter months, we cannot currently produce year-round. In addition, our greenhouses use high-efficiency boiler systems, where heat and CO2 are the two main byproducts. Although we are able to store hot water in storage tanks until it is needed for heating, the extra heat that we create could be used much more efficiently. The same goes for CO2. We use as much of the CO2 that we produce as possible within the greenhouse, as plants breathe in CO2 and breathe out oxygen. However, the excess CO2 that we create is not currently being used productively. So what do these three resources, grow lights, heat, and CO2, have in common? They all need power. We currently buy all of our electrical energy from the grid, but sometimes energy costs are extremely high. This means that operating a greenhouse can at times be quite expensive. So the question becomes, how can we grow fresh produce year-round while we simultaneously use resources more efficiently, keep costs manageable, and reduce negative impacts on the environment? Introducing the NatureFresh Farms Zero Emissions Cogen Power Plant, a facility housing natural gas engines that would be used for the efficient and environmentally conscious production of local electrical power. Cogen, or cogeneration, refers to a system that creates electrical power and hot water, two key resources needed for greenhouse growing. CO2 is also created with this type of system. With a cogen power plant, we would be able to respond to changes in local energy demand and do it fast. When power needs are high during the summer, we could quickly produce power to sell to the grid. When power needs are low during the winter and at night, we could use the power ourselves for our grow lights, allowing year-round production of fresh food. This facility would also create a lot of heat. Some of it could be used immediately in our greenhouses, but most would either need to be stored for later use or sold to our neighboring growers. This would create a district heating system for our community. Finally, a large amount of CO2 would be created by this facility, but we are fully committed to building a zero-emissions plant, where 100% of the CO2 created is not only captured and purified efficiently, but also used productively. How would we do this, you ask? By installing a responsible carbon capture system. This system would capture and clean CO2 that is food-grade quality and 99% pure. This CO2 would be used in our greenhouses, as well as transported and sold to industrial gas companies. With this system, there would still be some CO2 left over. That brings us to algae farming. Algae is grown and used in things like food, fertilizer, and biofuel. To grow algae, you need light energy, CO2, and nutrient water. Three resources we would have substantial access to with a cogen power plant. With this system, we would be able to install any grow lights needed to grow our algae. Also, by sending CO2 from our power plant to the algae farm, we would ensure that we create a zero-emissions facility. To top it all off, some nutrient water from our greenhouses could potentially be fed into the farm to increase algae growth. Right now, 4% of our nutrient water supply is not being recycled within our irrigation system. If nutrient levels in that water would benefit an algae farm environment, we would be able to reuse 100% of our nutrient water supply. As you can see, the creation of a zero-emissions cogen power plant with a carbon capture system and a scalable algae farm would allow us to grow fresh produce year-round in an efficient, cost-effective, and environmentally conscious way. All of the systems and technologies we need in order to achieve this project already exist. From cogen power systems to carbon capture technologies to algae farming experts, we have access to all of these innovations and resources. It all comes down to integrating these pieces into one project and getting the necessary agreements put in place to ensure its success. Greenhouse growing is arguably the most sustainable way that we can produce fresh food to feed our communities, and NatureFresh Farms is a recognized leader within the sustainable farming industry. With your support, we can continue to grow our futures together.